I'm comparing the GoPro Hero 11 to the DJI Osmo Action 3. We're going to be looking at the image quality, the colours, the stabilization, the overall user experience, and whether or not these are great for a vlogging camera in 2022. But before I show you which is which, let me know which is your favourite, camera A or camera B. Let's go! Firstly, I just want to say a massive thank you to Ryan and Ollie at Moto 101 for letting me come and film at the track. Great couple of lads and an amazing track, so if you're into that sort of thing, definitely check out their Instagram page and their website. I'll leave a link below. Messy work this. Probably going to regret this. Oh. I was sent both of these cameras, but I am free to give my 100% honest feedback, as always, because what's important to me is that you get the information that you need to make the right decision, and the brands also get my honest feedback in order to improve their products going forward, and everybody wins. So did you guess which is which? Camera A on the left hand side was the GoPro Hero 11, and camera B on the right hand side was the DJI Osmo Action 3. Let me know if you got it right in the comments, and also let me know what you think to the image. At the end, I'm going to tell you which one I prefer. So let's talk about the image quality and the colours first. So I feel like the dynamic range and the detail is much better on the GoPro Hero 11. However, I prefer the DJI Action 3 for a few different reasons. The DJI, in my opinion, seems to have a more pleasing and natural looking colour to begin with. You can literally film, put the footage onto your editor and not have to do any colour grading and it'll look fine. Whereas the GoPro, it's definitely got a pink tint to it. The contrast isn't as good. So you might have to do a few more tweaks to the GoPro to get it to a usable place. So if you're not a fan of colour grading and you just want a nice quick workflow, I recommend the DJI. I have heard people say that they much prefer the colours of the GoPro, and that's just personal preference there. So don't take my word for it, whichever one you prefer. That's why I'm showing you the side-by-sides without colour grading them, so you can make your own decision. On the other hand, GoPro does have 10-bit colour, but the DJI will have a firmware update soon and we'll be able to get 10-bit colour. Having said that, they both colour grade quite well, so you can push the colours a little bit further and it's absolutely fine without destroying the image and the colours completely. And if you are into your colour grading, they both do have a flat colour profile, which is meant to mimic a log profile, but they don't. I will say that the Cine D-like on the DJI is a lot better than the GoPro's flat profile. I still recommend just sticking to the natural profile on both. I am looking forward to when these action cameras do include log profiles and bigger sensors. I think they're going to be amazing. Right, so are these cameras any good for vlogging? Well, there's a few scenarios that they need to perform well in. One of them being the change in exposure. So I've got this set to auto exposure at the moment and it should adjust, because when you're out and about, the lighting conditions change just like this. 1 minute you're in the sun like this, the next minute you're in the shade, so the cameras need to adjust for that. And do these do it or not? I'm just looking on the screens now. If you're going to use one of these cameras for vlogging, for example, or whatever you're using it for, it's great that you don't have to worry about the settings. You can just leave it in auto mode and it looks great wherever you are. So quality-wise, the GoPro definitely has more detail in the image, which on first glance makes it look better than the DJI. But when you look closely, it seems a bit mushy, especially in the dirt. You can see where there's a lot of detail. It can look a bit messy. You don't want it to be too sharp or too detailed, because it kind of looks like you've applied digital sharpening to the whole thing and then cranked it all the way up, and that's never nice. But if you did want that extra detail, the GoPro's got it, whereas the DJI is a little bit softer. But the GoPro does have 3 different modes. It has low sharpness, medium sharpness, and high sharpness. Definitely recommend sticking to the medium. Now, since the GoPro has 5K resolution, you might be gravitating more towards the GoPro, but I tested both and honestly I couldn't tell a difference between the two unless you cropping in. So if you don't intend on cropping in or reframing, just stick to 4K because it looks good enough, it takes up less file space, and also it's going to save your battery by a big amount. The thing that stands out the most to me is the detail in the highlights. The GoPro has a much better dynamic range in general, but you can see it the most in the sky. Look at the difference in the detail in the clouds, and I think that's the only thing letting the DJI down, to be honest. If it improves the dynamic range and it's as good as the GoPro, then this would be a hands down winner for most people, and I'll come on to some of the other reasons why in a bit. The DJI gives you more brightness in low light situations, and from my experiments the GoPro was really noisy and I didn't like it at all. And it also gives you this pink mush. The shadows are a bit darker on the Action 3, and that's probably why there's a bit less noise, because again, if you don't want to be color grading these things, the DJI is already sorted for you, don't have to worry about that. And both cameras have a minimum ISO of 100, and the GoPro goes to 6400 while the DJI goes to 12800. So that's why you're going to get more brightness with the Action 3. So even though the GoPro gives you one extra wide mode, the DJI is actually wider overall in all of the settings because of the GoPro's stabilization crop. It crops in so much that it doesn't even look like a wide lens anymore. But there's still a lot of distortion. If you look at the wheel, it doesn't look like a circular shape on the GoPro, whereas the DJI, it looks a lot more natural, but you're still getting a lot more field of view. And it's just really handy having that extra wideness, because these cameras are going to be mounted in tight spaces. For example, if you're riding a bike, you want as much in that field of view as possible. You want to be able to see your handlebars, the wheel, and the terrain, and the environment that you're in, because that's going to immerse the viewer a lot more. Whereas if it's tight, people are not going to know what to look at. It's going to be boring just looking at the wheel and some dirt on the ground. You don't want a cropped in image where you can only see your face and your shoulders.
Right, unfortunately what keeps happening is the mounts aren't strong enough. Not having it.
This is definitely worth mentioning. If you are going to get accessories, make sure you go for the proper ones from the manufacturer and not any cheap ones from Amazon, because I did that. I bought a bunch and I had to send them all back because they were just drooping with the vibrations of the bikes, and that's not good. That's the whole reason of getting one of these cameras, is because you're going to be doing action sports with them. The GoPro has more options in slow motion mode. For example, it gives you 240 frames in 2.7K, whereas the DJI only has 240 in 1080. Also bear in mind that if you do use 60 frames or 120 frames in 4K, both of these cameras will overheat. And during my tests, they both overheated roughly the same time. I got about 20 to 30 minutes out of both. But when I was using 60 frames a second on the racetrack in short bursts, 2 to 3 minutes each time, stopping and starting recording for about 2.5 hours overall, they were absolutely fine. It's just the extended length of recording that does it. And also, if you're using 120 frames, the DJI stopped recording sooner. Probably got another 10 minutes out of the GoPro before it stopped, but it was so hot I couldn't touch it. So I feel like the DJI probably stopped recording sooner to keep it safer, because it didn't get anywhere near as hot as the GoPro. Another thing to bear in mind with the DJI is if you're using 120 frames, the front screen is disabled, so you can't monitor yourself from the front like that. You have to use the back screen. Now that's not a deal breaker for me, because if I'm filming 120 frames, I'm going to be behind the camera. The stabilization on both of these cameras is absolutely insane. It's amazing. It's slightly better on the GoPro, just a tiny bit. When I was on the bike, the two cameras were shaking around like crazy. I thought it was going to fly off. The only complaint I have about the GoPro is the fact that it crops in too much to stabilize the footage. And I would choose a wider field of view on the DJI than the slightly tiny better stabilization than the GoPro. Horizon steady is better on the GoPro because you get full 360 degrees rotation without it moving the horizon. Whereas on the DJI, you only get 45 degrees. Honestly, I wouldn't use that feature, because I think when you're doing action sports, you want the tilt of the horizon because it looks like it's giving you extra movement. It's like an FPV drone compared to a normal drone, which is just flat all the time. FPV drone, it gives you that horizon tilt, which looks amazing, and that's the whole point. It's extra action. So don't let the horizon steady feature fool you into buying the wrong camera.
The other thing is the audio quality.
They both have omnidirectional microphones, which means it's picking up sound from all around, but the Action 3 also has a front-facing microphone. If you are vlogging, it's only going to pick up the sound from in front of the camera and block everything else out.
So this is an audio test between the GoPro Hero 11 and the DJI Action 3, and we'll see which one sounds best for vlogging. At the moment I've got the front-facing microphone switched on the Action 3. It's also got wind reduction on, as does the GoPro. That's also got the wind reduction mode on. So it should sound nice and clear. Can you get away without using an external microphone?
They both sound very similar, but the DJI does a really good job of limiting the audio so it doesn't clip and get distorted. But what I found was it's filtering the sound. It's getting rid of a lot of the high end, which makes it sound quite muffled in comparison to the Action 3, which is fine. Again, it sounds good, but when you do notice it, it's not quite got the definition as the Action 3. When it comes to the build quality and the design, I love DJI stuff. Don't get me wrong, I love the GoPro, I love the design of it, looks great, but the DJI is just so much nicer to work with. The battery doors open a lot easier, whereas the one on the GoPro, it's a little bit fiddly to open, and when you close it, it doesn't quite feel like it's properly closed. There's a little bit of a wiggle room in that door there. The memory card's nice and easy to get out. The menus and the settings are so easy to navigate on the DJI. I just love using this camera. It makes it so much easy. The touchscreen is really responsive, and the GoPro has always been a little bit slow. I feel like they've never updated that. I remember it being exactly the same on all of the GoPros I've used, and I just feel like they need to speed it up slightly, because you swipe across with your finger and it takes a second to respond, and again it slows you down and you end up pressing something again, and then because it's moved, you press the wrong thing. They both have front screens so you can monitor yourself, but the GoPro doesn't have a touch screen on the front. The DJI does, and that means you can access your settings from in front of the camera, which is super handy, because if you're on a bike, for example, and you've got the camera facing you, you can just change the settings nice and quick. On the GoPro, if you're on your bike, you have to physically get off and walk around the back of the camera to change your settings, then get back on. And again, it's just another thing to slow you down. You can save custom presets on both of these cameras, but I prefer the way that that's set up on the DJI, because it's just the way it's laid out is a lot better. You can rename them, save multiple versions of it, and it's easier to get to.
See, what's cool about the GoPro is the mount is actually built into the body itself, so you just pull these little tabs out and you can clip it onto your attachment easily, so you don't need a cage. However, what's good about the DJI Action 3 is that it's got a magnetic mount on the body, but if you put the cage on, it's got a separate mount on the edge so that you can go into horizontal mode nice and easily. If you wanted to do that with the GoPro, you'd have to buy a separate cage for it with a side mount. Love that. Look how quick it is to switch. Amazing. It's not going anywhere, that. Horizontal to vertical mode in seconds.
The Action 3 Adventure Combo comes with a selfie stick, which is loads of fun and you can be really creative with it. The GoPro also comes with its selfie stick, which I like because this one floats in the water and you can see it's like a fishing float. That orange bit will float to the top. If you lose it, you're going to be able to see it better. And it also comes with this case. As you know, I love a case. You can just keep all your action camera accessories in one place and it'll stop it all from rattling around in your bag and getting lost. So you can put that in one of your compartments in your bag and you're away. The battery life on the Action 3 is so much better than the GoPro, and it charges faster as well. You can charge from 0% to 80% in 18 minutes. That's how quick it is. And that's really useful, for example, if you've only got one battery. So you can have a little bit of a break in between filming, get charged up, and you're ready to go again, and you've almost got a full charge in no time. But if you get the combo, it comes with this awesome charging dock, which holds and charges 3 batteries in one go. So while you've got one battery in the camera, you can actually charge these and they're ready to go. Plus you can press this little button and it'll show you how much charge each battery have got. Whereas with the GoPro, you have to charge the battery using the camera. You have to plug it in. So you can't be using the camera and charge a separate battery at the same time. Unless you purchase the Enduro battery charger separately, then you can do that. So if I was buying one of these, which one would I choose? I'll tell you, hands down, I'd get the DJI. Because of the colours, the usability is just amazing. The battery life and also the wider field of view. I just think it's an amazing camera, more affordable than the GoPro as well, so that's an even bigger bonus. I've enjoyed using this camera much more than the GoPro. Not saying this is bad, I just prefer this camera to use and I enjoy filming with it. But I'd love to know which one is your favourite, so let me know in the comments. And if you want to see more videos, make sure you subscribe to the channel and turn on the bell to get notified. But in the meantime, check out this video here and I'll see you in the next one.